Get out. Take your shame and go. I don't want to see your face again." The rain didn't just fall that night in the village. It poured like the heavens were weeping for her. Maya stood outside the gate she once called home, her headscarf soaked through, her pregnant belly pressing against the thin fabric of her mud-stained dress. In her trembling hand was a small black plastic bag, everything she owned in this world. Her husband stood beside his shining red SUV, dry and untouched by the storm, his face carved from stone. Not angry, just done with her. "Please," she whispered. "The baby, that's not my problem anymore." The gate slammed shut. The SUV door closed, and Maya was left standing in the rain, erased from the life she had built with her own hands. If you want to see how a woman who lost everything found her voice again, stay with me. Subscribe now, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me, have you ever felt invisible? Let's walk this journey together. It wasn't always like this. Maya still remembered the taste of her wedding day, the sweet canoe her mother-in-law had made, the way her husband's rough hands had felt when he placed the simple ring on her finger under the old mango tree. He wasn't rich then. He was just Tund, the son of a struggling farmer, a man with calloused palms and a voice that made promises in the quiet of the night. "I will take care of you, Maya. You and me, we will build something." And build they did. While Tund worked the family land, Maya woke before dawn to sell akara by the roadside. Her hand was scarred from hot oil, her back ached from carrying firewood, but she never complained. Every naira she saved went into their future, into buying more seeds, renting better farmland, expanding what his father had left behind. She was the one who suggested they start selling directly to the big market in the city. She was the one who convinced the local cooperative to give them credit. She was the one who kept the books, who negotiated prices, who smiled at buyers even when her feet were swollen and her stomach was empty. And when the money finally came, when the rains were good and the harvest was plenty, Tund bought a motorcycle, then a pickup truck, then a plot of land in town, then the red SUV that now sat gleaming in the rain, mocking her. But with every new thing he bought, a little piece of the Tund she knew disappeared. He stopped asking her opinion. He started attending meetings in the city without her. He bought a new phone and kept it locked. He came home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Maya told herself she was imagining things, that success was just making him busy, that the distance she felt was just in her head. Until the night she found the photograph. It was in his jacket pocket, a picture of him and her. A woman with smooth skin and painted nails, wearing a dress that cost more than Maya made in a month. They were standing in front of a hotel, his arm around her waist, his smile brighter than Maya had seen in years. When she confronted him, he didn't even deny it. "What did you expect, Maya? You think I can bring you to these places? Look at you. Look at your hands, your skin. You belong in the village. She fits my life now." The words cut deeper than any blade. "But I built this life with you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "And I'm grateful," he said, as if that made it okay. "But things change. I've changed. I need someone who can stand beside me in the world I'm entering, not someone who reminds me of where I came from." She wanted to scream, to fight, to remind him of every single sacrifice, every single night she went to bed hungry so he could eat, every single dream she had buried so his could grow. But the words wouldn't come. And then she found out she was pregnant. For one fragile, foolish moment, she believed this baby would save them, that when he held his child, he would remember who they used to be. That love, real love, would win. She was wrong. "That baby," he said coldly when she told him, "is a mistake. I already have plans, Maya, and they don't include you." When she refused to leave quietly, when she begged him to reconsider, he didn't shout. He didn't hit her. He simply looked at her with eyes that held nothing. No love, no hate, just emptiness, and said, "Pack your things. Be gone by tonight." And now here she was, standing in the rain outside the locked gate. Her neighbors watching from behind curtains, their judgment heavy in the air, but their help nowhere to be found. The baby kicked hard inside her, and pain, sharp, searing wrong, ripped through her belly. She gasped, clutching her stomach with both hands. "Not yet. Please, not yet." but her body didn't listen. The contractions came fast, cruel, unforgiving. Maya's knees buckled. The black plastic bag fell into the mud. She collapsed onto the wet earth, rain streaming down her face, mixing with her tears. This is it, she thought. This is how my story ends. Unwanted, unseen, forgotten. She didn't know that just beyond the bend in the road, a pair of headlights was cutting through the storm. She didn't know that a man in a black suit was about to step out of a sleek car and see her lying there. She didn't know that her life was about to change forever. Before we continue Maya's story, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment below. What would you do if you were Maya? Your support keeps this story alive. Let's go. Before the rain, before the gate, before the red SUV and the cold eyes of a man who once promised her forever, there was a different story. A story that began in a single room with rusted zinc roofing that leaked every time it rained. Maya was 19 when she married Tund. The ceremony was small, no big tent, no live band, just family gathered under the mango tree, sharing jollof rice and prayers. Her wedding dress was borrowed. His suit was the only one he owned. But when he slipped that thin silver ring on her finger, his hands shaking slightly, she felt like the richest woman alive. Their first home was a room barely big enough for a mattress and a small wooden table. The walls were cracked. The floor was uneven cement. When the rains came, they had to move the mattress to the corner and place buckets under the leaks. Plip, 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 all night long. But in that tiny, broken space, they were happy. Maya would wake up at 4 a.m., her body still warm from sleep, and start frying akara by candlelight because they couldn't afford the electricity during those hours. By the time the sun rose, she'd be at the roadside with her small table, selling to early morning commuters. Her hands burned from the hot oil. Her back ached from standing. But every naira she made, she tucked away carefully, because Tund had a dream. He wanted to expand his late father's farm. He wanted to learn modern techniques to turn their small plot of land into something that could feed not just them, but the whole community. He talked about irrigation systems, crop rotation, partnerships with city buyers, things Maya didn't fully understand but believed in because he believed in them. One day, Maya, he'd say, sitting across from her on their only chair while she sat on the mattress, their knees almost touching in the cramped space. One day, we'll leave this place. I'll build you a real house, with a kitchen that doesn't flood, with a roof that doesn't sing when it rains. She would laugh, her fingers intertwined with his. I don't need a big house, Tund. I just need you. And she meant it. Every evening, she'd come home exhausted, her headscarf damp with sweat, her feet swollen, and find him bent over books he'd borrowed from the Agricultural Extension Office. She'd cook their simple meal, sometimes just beans and Gary, sometimes less, and they'd eat from the same plate, their shoulders touching, talking about everything and nothing. Those were the days when love tasted like shared struggle, when sacrifice didn't feel heavy because it was given freely, when the future was uncertain, but they were building it together, brick by brick, naira by naira. Maya didn't just support his dream. She funded it. She took a second job cleaning the local school in the evenings. She sold her mother's gold earrings, the only valuable thing she owned, to help buy fertilizer for the farm. When the cooperative hesitated to give them credit, it was Maya who sat with the chairman, speaking with a confidence she didn't know she had, convincing him that they were worth the risk. And slowly, painfully, the dream started to become real. The harvest was good, then better. Tund's reputation grew. Buyers from the city started coming directly to them. Money, real money, began to flow. They moved out of the leaking room into a small house with 2 bedrooms. Then Tund bought a motorcycle. Then a pickup truck for transporting goods. Then a plot of land in town where he planned to build something bigger. Maya watched it all with pride swelling in her chest. We did this, she thought, together. But somewhere along the way, we became Mai. Tund started attending meetings in the city without telling her. He'd come home late, smelling like cigarettes and cologne she didn't recognize. He bought new clothes, sharp shirts, polished shoes, and when she asked if she could come with him to the next business meeting, he hesitated. These people, they're different, Maya. You wouldn't be comfortable. The words stung, but she swallowed them. He bought the red SUV without discussing it with her first. She found out when it was already parked outside, gleaming in the sun, and neighbors were gathered around congratulating him. "Don't you like it?" he asked, almost defensive. "I love it," she said quietly. "I just wish you'd told me." "I'm telling you now." His new friends had names she couldn't pronounce and wives who wore perfume that cost more than her monthly earnings. When they visited, Maya served them drinks and snacks, but she noticed how their eyes slid over her, taking in her simple wrapper, her work-roughened hands, her bare face. She noticed how Tun never introduced her as his partner. "Just as my wife," said quickly, almost apologetically. The man who once held her hands and called her his foundation now barely looked at her. And when she found out she was pregnant, she cried tears of desperate hope. This, she thought, pressing her hands to her still flat belly. This will bring him back. When he sees his child, he'll remember. He'll remember us. She told him on a Sunday evening, her heart pounding, her smile trembling. He stared at her for a long moment. And then he said the words that shattered everything. "Maya, this isn't a good time. Not congratulations. Not joy. Just inconvenience." That's when she knew. The man she married, the one who promised her forever in a leaking room, was gone. And in his place stood a stranger who had forgotten the cost of his success. A stranger who saw her as a reminder of a past he wanted to erase. Don't stop now. Maya's story is just beginning. Subscribe, hit that like button, and comment. Have you ever given everything to someone who forgot your worth? Drop your thoughts below. The next story is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The first time Maya saw her, she was stepping out of Tun's red SUV wearing sunglasses that cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. Her name was Adana. She was everything Maya wasn't. Tall, light-skinned, with hair that cascaded down her back in perfect waves. Her nails were long and painted. Her dress hugged her body like it was made specifically for her, because it probably was. When she laughed, it was loud and confident, the kind of laugh that demanded attention. And Tun gave it to her. Maya watched from the kitchen window as he opened the car door for Adana, his hand resting on the small of her back, a gesture he hadn't made for Maya in months, maybe years. When they walked into the house, Tun didn't even glance at Maya. "This is Adana," he said casually, as if introducing a business associate. "She'll be helping me with some consultations." Consultations. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Adana's eyes swept over Maya, taking in her faded wrapper, her bare feet, the small swell of her pregnant belly, and something flickered across her face. Not sympathy, not even hostility, just dismissal. "Nice to meet you," Adana said sweetly, but her smile never reached her eyes. Maya nodded, unable to speak, her throat tight with humiliation. From that day forward, Adana became a constant presence. She attended meetings with Tun. She sat beside him at dinners Maya wasn't invited to. Her perfume lingered in the house long after she left, expensive and suffocating. And Tun changed even more. He stopped eating the food Maya cooked, claiming he'd already eaten out. He started sleeping in the guest room, saying he had early meetings and didn't want to disturb her. When she tried to talk to him, he'd cut her off with impatience. "Not now, Maya. I'm busy. Can we talk later then?" "We'll see." They never did. One evening, she made his favorite meal, egusi soup with pounded yam, the way his mother had taught her. She set the table carefully, lit a candle, wore her best wrapper. She wanted to remind him of who they used to be. When he came home and saw the setup, he sighed, actually sighed like she'd inconvenienced him. "I already ate," he said flatly. "But I made this for her." "I said I already ate, Maya." His voice was sharp now. "With people who understand where I'm going. People who can actually help me get there." The words hit like a slap. "What does that mean?" she asked quietly. He turned to look at her then, really look at her, and what she saw in his eyes made her blood run cold. "It means you're holding me back," he said. "Look at you. Look at this." He gestured around the room, at the simple meal, at her. "I'm building an empire, Maya. I'm meeting governors, CEOs, people who matter. And you still cook like we're in the village. You still dress like we have nothing. You still talk like..." Like the woman who gave you everything? Her voice cracked. Like someone who doesn't belong in my life anymore. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Absolute. Maya's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table. I'm carrying your child, Tund. His jaw tightened. Don't. Don't what? Don't use that baby to trap me. The room spun. Trap you, she whispered. This is our baby. You and me. The future you promised. I never asked for this, he shouted, and Maya flinched. You think I want to be tied down right now? You think I want everyone knowing my wife is some village woman who can't even hold a conversation at a business dinner? Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I am your wife. I made you. You made nothing, he spat. I built this. Me. My intelligence. My vision. You were just there, and now you're in the way. Maya felt something inside her crack. Not break. Crack. Like glass under pressure, spiderwebbing slowly, inevitably. So what do you want me to do? She asked, her voice barely audible. Tund looked at her for a long moment. And then he said the words that would haunt her forever. I want you to leave. The storm came that night. Heavy. Relentless. The kind of rain that turned roads into rivers. Tund stood in the living room, dry and composed, his phone in his hand. Maya stood near the door, her few belongings stuffed into a small black plastic bag. Her headscarf was already soaked from the rain pouring through the open door. Please, she whispered one last time, one hand on her belly. At least wait until morning. The baby, that's not my problem anymore, he said without looking up from his phone. Tund, I said go, Maya. She stepped outside. The rain hit her like a wall. Cold, brutal, unforgiving. Behind her, she heard the gate slam shut. Locked. Final. She turned and saw him through the bars, standing beside his red SUV, his face illuminated by his phone screen. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He looked relieved, like she was a burden finally lifted. Maya stood there in the rain, her clothes clinging to her skin, mud seeping into her slippers, and realized something that broke her completely. She hadn't just lost her home. She hadn't just lost her husband. She had lost herself, because somewhere along the way, she had stopped being Maya, the strong, determined woman who built dreams with her bare hands, and became just Tund's wife. A role, a title, a thing that could be discarded when it was no longer useful. And now, standing in the storm with nothing but a plastic bag and a baby that might not survive the night, she didn't even know who she was anymore. The rain poured harder, and Maya collapsed. This isn't the end of Maya's story. It's where her real story begins. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like, and comment below. If you were Maya's friend, what would you tell her? Drop your thoughts. Next story is coming, and everything is about to change. The rain showed no mercy. Maya lay crumpled on the muddy road, her body curled around her belly, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps. Pain radiated through her like lightning, sharp, relentless, terrifying. The baby. Something was wrong with the baby. Her vision blurred. Rain mixed with tears. The black plastic bag that held everything she owned floated a few feet away in a puddle, forgotten. She could hear voices in the distance, neighbors whispering behind closed doors, watching but not helping, judging but not intervening. In their eyes, she was already erased. A cautionary tale. A woman who had fallen from grace. This is how I die, she thought. Alone. Forgotten. In the mud. And then light. Bright. Sudden. Slicing through the darkness like a blade. Headlights. A vehicle approached slowly, its engine a low hum against the roar of the storm. For a moment, Maya felt hope flicker weakly in her chest. But then the rational part of her brain whispered the truth. They won't stop. No one stops for women like you. The vehicle slowed, then stopped. Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out into the rain. He was tall, taller than Tund, dressed in a dark suit that was immediately soaked through. His shoes, clearly expensive, sank into the mud without hesitation. His face, illuminated by the headlights, was sharp and serious. His expression caught somewhere between shock and something Maya couldn't quite name. Concern. He stared at her for one frozen moment, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. And then he moved, not slowly, not cautiously. He ran. Oh my God, he breathed, dropping to his knees beside her in the mud, not caring that his expensive trousers were instantly ruined. Ma'am, can you hear me? Maya tried to speak, but all that came out was a strangled gasp. Her hand clutched her belly protectively, and the man's eyes followed the movement. His face went pale. You're pregnant, he said, more to himself than to her. Then louder, urgent. How far along? 7. Maya managed, her voice barely a whisper. 7 months. His jaw tightened. Okay, listen to me. I'm going to help you. I need you to stay with me, all right? Can you do that? Maya nodded weakly, though she wasn't sure she could keep that promise. Her body felt like it was tearing apart from the inside. The man shrugged off his coat, a long, elegant black coat that probably cost more than Maya had earned in a year, and wrapped it around her shoulders. It was warm, impossibly warm, and it smelled like cedar and something clean, something far removed from the mud and rain and despair. My name is Ethan, he said, his voice steady, commanding but not harsh. I'm going to get you out of here. Can you stand? I don't think. Another wave of pain cut through her, and Maya cried out, her fingers digging into the wet earth. Ethan didn't hesitate. He slipped one arm under her knees, the other around her back, and lifted her as if she weighed nothing. Maya gasped, startled, her hands instinctively gripping his shirt. I've got you, he said firmly. I've got you. He carried her to his vehicle, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows and leather seats that looked untouched by the realities of the world outside. He placed her gently in the back seat, propping her up with cushions, his movements careful, deliberate. There's a hospital 15 minutes from here, he said, already reaching for his phone. I'm calling ahead. They'll be ready for you. I don't have. Maya's voice cracked. I don't have money for her. I don't care about money. Ethan interrupted, his tone sharp but not unkind. Right now, I care about keeping you and that baby alive. Everything else we'll figure out later. His phone was already at his ear. Dr. Adeyemi, it's Ethan Cole. I'm bringing someone in. Pregnant, approximately 7 months, experiencing severe contractions and distress. I need your best team ready in 10 minutes. No, I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Be ready. He ended the call and climbed into the driver's seat, glancing back at Maya through the rearview mirror. Hold on. Just hold on. The SUV roared to life, and they sped through the rain-soaked roads, the storm battering against the windows. Maya lay in the back seat, trembling, Ethan's coat still wrapped around her, and for the first time that night, maybe for the first time in months, she felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Safety. She didn't know this man. Didn't know why he stopped when everyone else had walked past. Didn't know why he looked at her like she mattered when her own husband had looked at her like she was nothing. But he had stopped. And in that moment, in the warmth of his coat and the urgency in his voice, Maya understood something fundamental. Not everyone had forgotten her humanity. Not everyone saw her as disposable. Ethan Cole, this stranger in a tailored suit who knelt in the mud without hesitation, saw her as a person worth saving. And maybe, just maybe, that meant she was. The hospital lights appeared ahead, bright and sterile against the dark sky. Ethan pulled up to the emergency entrance, where doctors and nurses were already waiting with a stretcher, just as he'd promised. As they lifted Maya out of the SUV, she reached out weakly, her fingers brushing Ethan's wrist. Why? She whispered, her eyes searching his face. He looked down at her, rain dripping from his hair, his expression unreadable. Because someone should have stopped a long time ago, he said quietly, and then the doctors whisked her away, and Ethan stood alone in the rain, his coat gone, his suit soaked, staring after her as if he'd just witnessed something that changed him too. Maya's life just took a turn, but will she survive the night? Will the baby make it? And who is Ethan Cole? Subscribe now, smash that like button, and drop a comment. Would you have stopped? Let me know below. The hospital was too bright. Sterile white walls. Fluorescent lights that hummed like a swarm of insects. The sharp smell of disinfectant that burned Maya's nose. Everything felt artificial, removed from reality, as if she'd stepped into a world that didn't quite exist. But the pain was real. It tore through her body in waves, each one more vicious than the last. Doctors moved around her with practiced efficiency, their voices calm but urgent. Machines beeped, hands pressed against her belly. Someone was holding her hand, though she couldn't see who. "Maya, listen to me." A woman's voice, firm but gentle. "Dr. Adeyemi, your baby is in distress. We need to deliver now. Do you understand?" Maya tried to nod, but another contraction seized her, and all she could do was scream. "It's too early," she gasped between breaths. "It's too early, please." "I know," Dr. Adeyemi said, her hands squeezing Maya's. "But if we don't do this now, we'll lose you both." The words hit Maya like ice water. "Lose you both? Save the baby," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please, save the baby." Dr. Adeyemi's expression softened. "We're going to do everything we can." They prepped her quickly, and 4-line went into her arm. Monitors were attached to her chest. Someone placed a mask over her face, and Maya breathed in something that made the edges of the room blur. "Count backwards from 10, a voice said. 10, 9, 8. And then, darkness. When Maya woke, the first thing she heard was crying. Tiny, fragile, desperate. Her baby. Her eyes flew open, her body jerking upright despite the pain radiating through her abdomen. A nurse was beside her immediately, hands gentle but firm, easing her back down. "Easy, easy," the nurse said. "You just had surgery. Don't move too quickly." "My baby," Maya's voice was hoarse, broken. "Your daughter is here," the nurse said softly, and something in her tone made Maya's chest tighten with fear. Daughter. She had a daughter. The nurse disappeared and returned moments later carrying a bundle wrapped in white cloth. The baby was impossibly small, her skin almost translucent, her tiny chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths. "She's very early," the nurse said quietly, placing the baby carefully in Maya's arms. "She's fighting, but—" The nurse didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Maya looked down at her daughter, this tiny, fragile life she'd carried for 7 months, and felt her heart crack open. The baby's eyes were closed, her little fists curled tight. She had Tun's nose. Maya's mouth. "Hello, my love," Maya whispered, her tears falling onto the white cloth. "I'm your mama. I'm here. I'm here." The baby's crying softened, as if she recognized the voice. Maya cradled her closer, feeling the rapid flutter of her daughter's heartbeat against her own chest. "I'm going to call you Adiz," Maya said, her voice trembling. "It means daughter of a king, because that's what you are. My princess. My everything." She held her daughter for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. She memorized every detail, the curve of her tiny ears, the softness of her skin, the way her little fingers wrapped around Maya's thumb with surprising strength. "You're so strong," Maya whispered. "Just like your mama. We're going to be okay. You and me. We're going to be okay." She said it over and over, like a prayer, like a promise. She said it until she believed it. And then, silence. Not gradual, not gentle, just silence. The tiny chest stopped rising. The little fist went slack in Maya's hand. The warmth against her body began to fade. "No," Maya breathed. "No, no, no, baby, please." Nurses rushed in. Someone tried to take Adiz from her arms, but Maya held on, her grip desperate. "Ma'am, we need to." "Don't take her," Maya sobbed. "Please don't take her." "Maya." Dr. Adeyemi's voice, firm but breaking. "Maya, let us try." They took her baby. They tried. They failed. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. There were no screams, no wailing, no collapsing into someone's arms. Maya just sat there in the hospital bed, staring at her empty hands, feeling the weight of what she'd lost settle into her bones like stones sinking to the bottom of a river. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just disappeared inside herself. Dr. Adeyemi came to speak with her, her voice gentle, explaining what had happened. Premature delivery, underdeveloped lungs, complications from stress and trauma. Clinical words that meant nothing and everything. "I'm so sorry," Dr. Adeyemi said, her hand on Maya's shoulder. Maya nodded automatically, not really hearing. A social worker came next, asking questions Maya couldn't answer. Did she have family? A place to stay? Someone to call? No, no, no. She had nothing. No one. She was alone with a grief so massive it had swallowed her whole. It was night when Ethan finally came. Maya didn't hear the door open, didn't notice him standing there until he spoke, his voice quiet, careful. Maya. She turned her head slowly, as if moving through water. He stood in the doorway, still wearing the muddy trousers from earlier, his shirt wrinkled, his face etched with something that looked like pain. He'd stayed. All this time, he'd stayed. I'm sorry, he said simply. And those two words, so insufficient, so human, broke something loose inside her. Maya started to cry. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, endless tears that soaked into the hospital sheets. Her shoulders shook. Her hands covered her face. Ethan didn't rush forward, didn't offer empty platitudes. He just moved to the chair beside her bed and sat down, his presence solid and steady. I held her, Maya whispered after a long time. I held my baby, and she was so small, so perfect, and I couldn't save her. This wasn't your fault, Ethan said firmly. How do you know? Maya's voice cracked. How do you know this wasn't punishment? For not being good enough. For not being the wife you wanted. Stop. Ethan's voice was sharp, and Maya's eyes snapped to his. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Don't do that. Don't let him take this from you, too. Your baby's death was not punishment. It was tragedy, and you survived it. That matters. Maya stared at him, this stranger who spoke like he understood something about loss that went beyond sympathy. You've lost someone, she said quietly. Not a question. A recognition. Ethan's expression flickered. Yes. Who? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, my wife. 3 years ago. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with shared grief. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. So am I. He leaned back in the chair, his eyes distant. For both of us. They sat in silence, two broken people who understood that some losses don't heal. They just become part of who you are. What do I do now? Maya asked, her voice small. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and said the only truth he knew. You survive, one breath at a time. Maya has lost everything. But this isn't where her story ends. It's where it transforms. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and comment below. How do you survive after losing everything? Share your story. The guest house was quiet. Too quiet at first. Maya would wake in the middle of the night, disoriented, her arms instinctively reaching for a baby that wasn't there. The silence would press down on her chest like a weight, and she'd lie there in the darkness, tears sliding silently into the pillow. But slowly, painfully slowly, the quiet became something else. Not comfort, exactly, but space. Room to breathe without someone telling her she wasn't enough. Ethan's estate was massive, but he'd given Maya the guest house at the far end of the property, a small, self-contained cottage with a kitchen, a bedroom, and windows that looked out onto a garden. It had its own entrance, its own privacy. He never made her feel like she owed him anything. That first morning, when she'd shuffled into the main house, uncertain and ashamed, he looked up from his breakfast and simply said, "Coffee?" Not "how are you feeling?" Not "you poor thing." Just coffee. Maya had nodded, and he'd poured her a cup, black, no sugar, and they'd sat in silence at opposite ends of the long dining table. It was the most dignified she'd felt in months. You don't have to explain anything to me, Ethan had said after a while, not looking at her. You don't owe me your story, your gratitude, or your presence. This space is yours for as long as you need it. No conditions. No expectations. Maya had stared at him, this man who'd pulled her from the mud, who'd paid for her hospital stay, who'd somehow known she needed dignity more than pity. Why are you doing this? She'd asked quietly. Ethan had been quiet for a long moment, his fingers wrapped around his coffee cup. Because someone should have done it for my wife. It took 2 weeks before Maya asked about her. They were in the garden. Maya had started sitting there in the mornings, letting the sun warm her face, when she finally found the courage. You said you lost your wife. Ethan was trimming the hedges, something he did himself despite having gardeners. He paused, his back to her, then continued cutting. Her name was Amaka, he said quietly. We were married for 3 years. She was 6 months pregnant when she died. Maya's breath caught. What happened? Ethan set down the shears and turned to face her. His expression was controlled, but Maya could see the old pain in his eyes. I owned a manufacturing company back then, he said. Chemical processing. We produced industrial solvents. There were safety concerns. Reports about contaminated water near the factory. People were getting sick. Pregnant women were having complications. He sat down on the bench beside her, his hands clasped between his knees. The board wanted to bury it, said addressing it would cost too much, that would hurt the company's reputation. I believed them. I was young, ambitious, more concerned with profit margins than people. His voice hardened. Amaka drank that water. She lived 3 kilometers from the factory. And I didn't even know. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Ethan, she went into labor early. He continued, his voice steady but hollow. Just like you. The baby, our son, he lived for 2 hours. Amaka lasted 3 days. Long enough to tell me she forgave me. Long enough to make me promise I'd do better. The silence that followed was heavy with shared understanding. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. So am I. He looked at her then, really looked at her. That's why I stopped that night. Because I've seen what it looks like when someone is invisible. When everyone walks past, because helping is inconvenient. I couldn't do it again. Maya nodded slowly, understanding blooming in her chest. This wasn't charity. This wasn't savior complex. This was penance and solidarity. What did you do? She asked. After, I shut down the company. Paid reparations to every family affected. Started a foundation. He gestured vaguely toward the main house. The Grace Foundation. Named after Amaka, her middle name. We help displaced women. Women who've been abandoned, abused, left behind. We give them housing, education, legal support. A chance to rebuild. That's beautiful, Maya said softly. Ethan shrugged. It's necessary, and it's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's something. 3 weeks after arriving, Maya asked if she could visit the foundation. Ethan drove her into the city, to a large, welcoming building with bright colors and comfortable furniture. Women of all ages filled the space, some with children, some alone, all with stories written in the lines of their faces. A coordinator named Blessing showed Maya around. The legal clinic, the skills training center, the daycare, the counseling rooms. We don't just give handouts, Blessing explained. We give tools, education, dignity, whatever they need to stand on their own. Maya watched a woman her age learning to use a sewing machine, concentration fierce on her face. Another woman in a corner, typing on a computer, taking an online business course. They looked like her. They were her. Can I help? The words came out before Maya could stop them. Blessing turned, surprised. Help how? I don't know. Anything. I can cook. I can clean. Maya's voice cracked slightly. I need to do something. I need to be useful. Blessing's expression softened with understanding. Let me show you something. She led Maya to a room where women sat in a circle, talking. A support group. We need someone to coordinate meals for our residents, Blessing said. Plan menus, manage the kitchen, teach cooking skills. Would that interest you? Maya stared at her. You trust me to do that? Why wouldn't we? Because I'm broken, Maya wanted to say. Because I failed at everything. Because I couldn't even keep my baby alive. But Blessing was looking at her with such genuine respect that Maya couldn't say any of those things. Yes, she whispered instead. I'd like that. The days began to have shape again. Maya woke early, planned meals, ordered supplies, taught young mothers how to make nutritious food on limited budgets, something she knew intimately from her own past. She learned names, heard stories, offered quiet comfort to women who cried over what they'd lost. And slowly, so slowly she almost didn't notice, the weight on her chest began to lighten. She wasn't happy. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But she was present. She was breathing. She was useful. One evening, 6 weeks after that terrible night in the rain, Maya stood in the foundation's kitchen, teaching 3 women how to make jollof rice. They were laughing at something one of them had said, and Maya realized she was smiling. Actually smiling. Ethan appeared in the doorway, watching quietly. When Maya caught his eye, he nodded once, a small gesture of acknowledgement. "You're surviving," it said, one breath at a time. That night, back in her cottage, Maya sat by the window and looked at the stars. She thought about Adiz, about Tund, about the woman she used to be. And for the first time, she thought about the woman she might become. Not someone's wife, not someone's victim, just Maya, whoever that was going to be. Maya is finding her strength again, not through rescue, but through purpose. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe now, hit that like button, and comment. What gives you purpose after loss? Share below. 3 months. That's how long it took for Tund to come looking for her. Maya was in the foundations garden, teaching a group of women how to grow tomatoes and peppers in small containers, when Blessing rushed out, her face tight with concern. "Maya, there's someone here for you." Something in Blessing's tone made Maya's stomach drop. "Ooh, he says he's your husband." The trowel slipped from Maya's hands. Tund stood in the foundation's lobby like he owned it, his expensive suit pressed and perfect, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. He looked exactly the same, handsome, confident, untouchable. But when his eyes landed on Maya, something flickered across his face. Surprise. She didn't look like the broken woman he'd thrown into the rain. Her headscarf was clean and neatly tied. Her clothes were simple but dignified. Her spine was straight. Her eyes were clear. "Maya," he said, and had the audacity to smile. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Maya said nothing, just stared at him, her heart pounding but her feet planted firmly on the ground. "You look good," he continued, his tone uncertain now. "I was worried. You disappeared without a trace. I went to the hospital, but they said—" "What do you want, Tund?" Her voice was steady, cold, nothing like the pleading, desperate woman he remembered. Tund's smile faltered. "I want to talk. Privately. There are things we need to discuss." "No." The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Tund blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said no. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here." His jaw tightened. "Maya, don't be difficult. I know you're hurt. I know I made mistakes, but—" "Mistakes?" Maya's voice rose slightly, and women began gathering in the hallways, watching. "You threw me out in the rain while I was pregnant. You called our child a mistake. You told me I was worthless. Those weren't mistakes, Tund. Those were choices." Tund's expression darkened. He glanced around at the watching faces and lowered his voice. "We can discuss this later. Right now, I need you to come home. There are complications. Legal matters. I need my wife." "What?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. "What? Why do you need your wife now?" Maya asked, her eyes narrowing. "What happened?" Before Tund could answer, a voice spoke from behind him. Calm, measured, dangerous. "I can answer that." Ethan stepped into the lobby, dressed in a dark suit, his presence commanding immediate attention. Tund turned, and for the first time, Maya saw something unfamiliar in her husband's face. Fear. "Who the hell are you?" Tund demanded, but his bravado was thin. "Ethan Cole." He extended his hand, which Tund ignored. Ethan lowered it without reaction. "I'm the one who found your wife collapsed in the rain. The one who paid her hospital bills. The one who's been helping her rebuild her life while you've been." "Where exactly have you been?" "That's none of your business," Tund snapped. "Maya is my wife. Whatever arrangement you have with her ends now. She's coming home." "I'm not," Maya said quietly. Tund spun to face her. "Don't be stupid, Maya. You think this man cares about you? He's using you. Men like him don't help people out of kindness. He wants something." "You're right," Ethan said calmly. "I do want something. I want justice." He pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed it to Maya. She opened it with trembling hands, her eyes scanning the documents inside. Bank statements, property records, loan agreements, and her father's signature. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your husband," Ethan said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "took out multiple loans in your father's name 5 years ago. Forged his signature. Used the money to fund his business expansion. When your father discovered the fraud, Tund threatened him. Told him if he reported it, he'd make sure your father went to prison instead. Maya's hand shook. My father died of a heart attack 5 years ago. I know, Ethan said gently. The stress of the debt, the threats, the shame, it killed him. And Tom let you believe it was just bad luck. The folder slipped from Maya's hands, papers scattering across the floor. She turned to Tund, her vision blurring with tears. You killed my father? It wasn't like that. Tund started, his face pale. You killed him. Maya's voice cracked, raw with grief and rage. You stole from him, threatened him, destroyed him, and then you married me. You married me knowing what you'd done. You let me cry at his grave. You let me blame myself for not taking better care of him. I did what I had to do to survive. Tund shouted back. Your father was in the way. The business needed capital. I made a choice. You made a choice, Maya repeated, her voice dropping to something cold and terrifying. Just like you made a choice to throw me out. Just like you made a choice to call our baby a mistake. Everything has been a choice, Tund. And now I'm making mine. She stepped forward, and Tund actually stepped back. I'm not coming home, Maya said, each word deliberate. I'm not your wife anymore. Not in my heart. Not in my spirit. You can keep your house, your car, your money. I don't want any of it. It's all built on lies and blood. You're nothing without me, Tund hissed. You're a village girl who got lucky. Without me, you'll always be free, Maya interrupted. Without you, I'm free. Ethan held up another document. These are the originals of the forged loan documents, along with recorded conversations between you and the loan sharks you hired to intimidate Maya's father. I've already sent copies to the police, the banking commission, and 3 major newspapers. Tund's face went white. You can't. I can. And I did. Ethan's smile was cold. By tomorrow morning, everyone will know exactly who you are. Your business partners, your investors, your girlfriend. They'll all know you're a fraud and a murderer. I didn't murder anyone. You might as well have. Ethan stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only Tund could hear. You threw a pregnant woman into the rain and let her baby die. You destroyed her father. You built your empire on the graves of good people. That ends today. He nodded to the security guards waiting by the door. Escort Mr. Okonkwo out. He's not welcome here. Tund looked at Maya one last time, searching for something. Mercy, perhaps, or the broken woman he discarded. He found neither. Maya stood tall, surrounded by women who'd survived their own storms, and felt nothing but relief as security led him away. That evening, it rained again. Maya stood in the foundation's garden, face tilted toward the sky, letting the water wash over her. But this time, she wasn't on her knees in the mud. This time, she wasn't collapsing under the weight of someone else's cruelty. This time, she was standing. Ethan appeared beside her with an umbrella, but didn't offer it. He just stood there, getting wet with her. Thank you, Maya said quietly. For what? For seeing me, when no one else did. Ethan nodded. You were always worth seeing, Maya. You just needed to see it yourself. The rain poured. Thunder rolled. Lightning split the sky. And Maya smiled. Maya reclaimed her power, her truth, and her freedom. If this story moved you, subscribe, smash that like button, and comment. What would you say to someone who underestimated you? Drop it below. Thank you for walking this journey with Maya. Her story isn't over. It's just beginning. See you in the next one.